Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Coach Saban and I have had a great relationship regardless of what people may think. As he says, I get my chewings from time to time. I've learned to accept those. So it's been a great run.
Rodney Orr has given me a couple of those through the years. A great run that will continue through the playoffs. That was this morning, Lane Kiffin's introductory press conference as the new head football coach at Florida Atlantic. The program started by Howard Schnellenberger. Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Once again tonight, we've got Pepsi Max. Max tastes zero sugar, and I hope these don't spew. Good. I put them in the freezer and forgot to take them out, but now they're just going to be ice cold. Pick up some great Pepsi products the next time you're at your local grocery store from Buffalo Rock. We have a lot of big recruiting news to get to, Rodney. I know you're biting at the bit to talk about that, and we'll address it in the next segment. But let's start with Kiffin. News broke yesterday of his hire at FAU. Coach Saban talked about the move in a press conference later that morning.
Lane's done a phenomenal job for us for the last 3 years. We appreciate the impact that he's made on this program. You know, we think that this is a wonderful opportunity for him to get to be a head coach again, and I think FAU has selected someone that is going to do a great job for them.
Well, let's get into Lane Kiffin discussion. I think that Coach Saban had really been politicking, if you will, talking about Lane Kiffin, wanting him to realize his dream of becoming a head football coach again. It looked like it might happen at Houston. He was passed over for Major Applewhite. We'll see how that works out. But a lot of people are saying, why FAU? Well, number one, Ron, he wants to be a head coach again. Number two, this isn't Conference USA, which is a pretty good league as far as non-Power 5 conferences are concerned. There's a recruiting hotbed there with Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward counties. He's got contacts in the Southeast and on the West Coast. He believes he can go there and win. He said that this morning. What do you think?
Well, I think if anyone could, certainly Lane Kiffin could. He's had contacts. He's recruited down there extremely well in the past. Gary, you know, he's got some of the top players. Even when he was at USC, he went to Tampa and got some really outstanding, highly recruited players. So he has a lot of contacts in that part of the country, in that part of Florida. And I think, obviously, his name recognition is going to certainly help him. And there's, like you said, Gary, there are a ton of players down there that nobody's ever heard of. And he's going to have an opportunity to get a lot of those players and have an opportunity to build that program to what they hope it can become.
And, Rodney, this also works out nicely for Alabama. No more uncertainty about Lane Kiffin and his future. He's going to be the head coach at FAU. He is going to coach Alabama through the playoff, whether it's one game or, as everybody hopes, 2 games. So now you can look at this situation. It's crystal clear. He's back focusing, much like Jim McElwain did a few years ago when he went to Colorado State, to coordinate Alabama's offense. He's called the plays for 3 years. He'll continue to do so. And unlike Kirby Smart, who is going to Georgia, a competitor in the SEC, there's really no conflict at all between Alabama and FAU. This should be a very smooth transition.
Yeah, I think so. And certainly I think it's really good given the fact that he has, you know, called the plays all year long. He's done it for 3 years, obviously. But now where they are here at the end of the year, going into the playoffs, certainly you hate to make a change at the offensive coordinator spot because of the familiarity of all of that. So I think it's really good that Lane Kiffin will certainly stay on and call those plays. And I think that, you know, as you move in, you don't have to really kind of make the adjustments that you would have to make if he were moving on.
And real quickly, this could be an opportunity for some Alabama staffers to move on with him to Florida Atlantic and become full-time assistant coaches.
It could. And it certainly, too, as you start to move forward, Coach Saban said there's no timeline for making a decision on who the next offensive coordinator will be, but certainly you have some guys on this staff that may be candidates.
All right, let's move on. Alabama heads back to the Georgia Dome for the 11th time in the Nick Saban era. The Crimson Tide has played kickoff games and SEC championships there, and now the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Of the 10 previous trips to Atlanta, Bama has won 9 of those games. They're 9-1. The one loss being Florida in the 2008 SEC championship game. Meanwhile, Washington hasn't played in the Georgia Dome, and furthermore, Alabama has to just go a couple hundred miles, while the Huskies will travel a few thousand miles across country. Head coach Chris Peterson knows there will be challenges facing his Husky squad.
You know, playing inside, it's going to be loud any way you cut it. So but it's something we've, dealt with all year long. I think all the venues that most of us play in get really loud, and you practice with that all the time. And yeah, it'll be a challenge. I think it always is. I think the big challenge is, not getting too emotional about the whole situation and keeping emotions in check and not letting the pageantry and the emotional part of the game get too big.
So, Rodney, the Tide has plenty of experience playing in the Georgia Dome. Atlanta's almost like a second home. Bama was just there a week and a half ago. Is that an advantage for the Tide, or maybe is that being overplayed a little bit?
Different circumstances, but Utah came all the way to New Orleans and wiped Alabama out after the 2008 season. Again, I don't really think it matters where you play. Maybe it's a little bit of a travel advantage for Alabama, the familiarity. But these two teams, Gary, they didn't get where they are, really based on where they were playing. I mean, they're good football teams. They're going to come to play no matter where it is. Look, Chris Peterson's an outstanding football coach.
Yes, he is.
He is going to have Washington ready to play.
Yes, he will. It might be a bigger advantage for the Alabama fans.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Most of them will be able to drive instead of having to fly.
Now, from that standpoint, in terms of the crowd and the support, certainly it would be an advantage for Alabama, you'd think.
All right. Still to come on Tider Insider Television, nearly 40 years after starring for the Crimson Tide, Marty Lyons fulfills a promise to Coach Bryant. We'll tell you what that is. Plus, we'll get into the latest news on the recruiting trail, including one of the top junior college players in the country, spurning his home state LSU Tigers for the Crimson Tide. It happened just this morning. We'll break it down next. Plus, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen or reach us on Twitter using the hashtag TITV. Go ahead and call in now. We'll be back with more Tider Insider TV right after this. An Alabama All-American defensive tackle under Bear Bryant in the late 70s and now a college graduate, Marty Lyons played for the Crimson Tide from 75 to 78, and he promised Coach Bryant that he would graduate. Well, after a career in the National Football League and now as the New York Jets radio analyst, Lyons finally made that promise a reality. He graduated with a bachelor's degree from the University of Alabama on Saturday. Way to go, Marty. Also a great guy, really good guy. Welcome back to Tider Insider TV. From a past Crimson Tide star to a future Crimson Tide standout, Alabama received a pair of commitments over the past week, but we'll start with what happened this morning. Ronnie, as I said on Twitter, you kind of get just a little bit numb to all the great recruiting by Alabama, but this is one that has got Tide fans jacked up in stature and importance. Isaiah Buggs, the top-rated junior college defensive lineman from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, long thought to be headed to LSU. He's originally from Ruston, Louisiana, but he committed to Bama this morning, and this is just a huge, huge hit for Alabama at a position of need, defensive line.
Yeah, no question about it. Even if you don't have a need, this guy's unbelievable to pick up. But, yeah, Alabama has a huge need. And when you're talking about Isaiah Buggs, Gary, this guy is the real deal. I can't tell you how huge this is to this recruiting class. Alabama needs to kind of get going in terms of landing defensive linemen. I know a lot of fans are asking about that. Hey, Buggs is just the start. They're going to continue to get some more as we move forward, defensive linemen that are top-notch. This guy's just the start, and he's one of the best.
You know how they describe the Isaiah Buggs type player in recruiting circles?
I call him a difference maker.
He's a man.
He's a man.
He is a grown man. Number 9, nothing small about him. Wouldn't shock you if he came in here and started.
Oh, absolutely not. You know he's going to play immediately. He's a guy that's going to make an immediate impact, Gary. There's not any question about that. And as you mentioned, really, everyone expected him to go to LSU.
What a hit for LSU and Ed Orgeron. And in a bad way.
And the problem is the coaching changes that they've had created opportunities for other schools to come in, like Alabama.
And last week, a flip. 4-star safety Daniel Wright from Florida, committed to Florida State originally. Last week, he flipped from FSU to Alabama, from the same high school as Eddie Jackson. Now he wants to follow in Jackson's footsteps. Yeah,
Gary, this, again, you're talking about a need position at the safety spot. Alabama probably will bring in at least one more safety in this class. And, Wright's just an outstanding player. And he'd been committed to Florida State for a while. We had a feeling that he would flip to Alabama at some point. Mario Cristobal did a fantastic job of recruiting him. just a big pickup for Alabama because this guy is a very athletic safety.
No doubt about it. And this bolsters what was already shaping up to be potentially a historic signing class. Dylan Moses, the 5-star linebacker out of IMG Academy, originally from Baton Rouge, signed his financial aid paperwork for Alabama. And Jerry Jeudy, the 5-star wide receiver out of Deerfield Beach, familiar high school for Bama fans, shut down the rest of his recruiting. He's sticking with the Crimson Tide after Miami made a serious pitch to get him late. I know we've had a lot of big recruiting classes under Nick Saban, but Ronnie, this class, it looks like it maybe potentially could be the best one ever. Is that fair to say?
Well, I mean, on paper, certainly. When you look at it, I think, you know, like I said, they've got a lot of the haze in the barn, so to speak, but they've still got more coming. And I'll tell you this, Gary, when you look at the state of Louisiana, I think when it's all said and done, Alabama might totally wipe that state out because you have to consider Bugs from Louisiana. He's a Ruston native. You've got Chris Allen, who's one of the top linebackers in the country, Dylan Moses, and I think there's more to come.
All right, here we go with Moses right here. This is a guy that grew up in the backyard of LSU, is at IMG Academy now, but he's been recruited by Alabama and LSU since he was in the 8th grade, Rodney. Let's be honest. This is a guy who's been on the recruiting radar for a long time, and this is a big-time commitment, and now already turning in his paperwork.
He was on the cover of ESPN magazine as an 8th grader. I mean, this guy's been 6'1", 220 pounds since he was in the 8th grade. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, Dylan Moses is obviously a big pickup, Gary, in a lot of ways. Not only is he a great athlete and a really good football player, but I think he's got a lot of influence in that state with other prospects.
Yeah, and he'll be in January, as a lot of these guys will.
Yeah,
and I need to mention something on Bugs, too, and Elliott Baker, the junior college offensive tackle. They can sign tomorrow.
Yeah, and again, I just think that Dylan Moses, his impact with recruiting the state of Louisiana certainly helps. But not just that. He's got a lot of relationships with other top prospects that Alabama's recruiting.
And keeping Jerry Jeudy. There was a lot of pressure on him in South Florida to flip to Miami.
Yeah,
and he sticks with the Tide.
That's huge. So Rivals has him the #1 wide receiver in the country.
Well, the awards are rolling in for the current Tide players, too. That's how you recruit great players for the future. You have a lot of good ones and win a lot of awards and national championships. Still to come, Jonathan Allen, though, stands out among his peers and among all past Alabama defensive players. Really, really impressive. And next, we'll welcome your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information there on your screen. Call us at 205-348-9882. We'll be back with more of the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. We've been doing it a long time. Tider Insider TV. We'll be back after this. Bama defensive lineman Jonathan Allen became the first Alabama player ever to win the Nagurski Award, then followed that up as the first Bama player to win the Bednarik. How about that? He also took home the Hendricks Trophy as the top defensive end in college football. He is projected to be one of the top picks in next spring's NFL Draft. In addition to Allen's awards, Cam Robinson won the Outland Trophy at the College Football Awards Show last week. The Outland is given to the top interior lineman in college football each year. Robinson becomes the 4th Bama player to win that one, joining Chris Samuels, Andre Smith, and Barrett Jones. All right, welcome back, Rodney. Let's get to the phone calls. They're lined up for us tonight. We begin with our buddy Harold over in Anniston. How are you, Harold?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Very well.
Hey, guys, I just want to tell y'all, Merry Christmas, man.
Thanks.
Happy New Year. And y'all show, man, I love it.
Thanks, Harold.
Thank you, Harold. Appreciate it.
Hey, I just want to ask y'all, man, we're going up against Chris Peterson. This guy's a master of the upset, man. You think we're going to be able to, you know, our team, I know Coach Saban is aware, but I'm hoping the team is aware. This guy, we got to match the intensity when they come, man.
Yeah, Harold, they do. Alabama's got to be ready. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, maybe they'll take Washington lightly. I don't think so. They remember 2 years ago what happened against Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl. Coach Saban, a lot of these coaches will remind the players of what happened against Utah in the Sugar Bowl following the 2008 season. There are plenty of examples they can use. Oklahoma, Ohio State, Utah. And Washington is good. Peterson is one of the best coaches in the country. So if Alabama isn't ready to play, I think they'll get beat.
Yep.
But I don't think that'll be an issue.
You know, 2 years ago, everyone thought Alabama got the best draw when they got Ohio State in that semifinal game, and you saw what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think certainly that's a good example of what could happen. I'm not saying it will, certainly, but I think it could, you know, because I do believe that Washington's a capable football team. They're well coached. You know, they've got a quarterback that can make all the throws, Gary. They've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but I do think that that's a good example that Alabama can look back to. A lot of players on that team, still here, know what happened 2 years ago.
That's right. And Washington is a good team. Harold, you're absolutely right. Let's stay here in Tuscaloosa and talk to Jane. Jane, welcome into the program.
How are y'all tonight?
Very well.
I have two questions.
Okay.
My first question is, who do you think Saban will get to have as a backup quarterback in case Jalen Hurts does get hurt? and why did he get awarded for a Heisman Trophy? My second question is Najee Harris and Banderas Cowan, are they still going to be committed to come to Alabama in 2017?
Yeah, all right, Jane. First of all, on Cowan and Harris, yes, they're firmly committed to Alabama right now. On backup quarterbacks, well, for the playoff, they're going to be fine. I think both Cooper Bateman and David Cornwell are going to be here through the playoff before they transfer. And for next year, they've got a couple of highly touted freshman commitments, correct?
Yes, from Hawaii, Tua Tagovailoa, who is a very outstanding talent. Gary, highly rated. Some people have him a 5-star quarterback. And Mac Jones. So I think, when you look at him, he reminds me a lot of a young A.J. McCarron, and he's out of Jacksonville Bowles High School. So those are two outstanding young freshmen that will come in and compete in the future.
And again, Bateman and Cornwell will both be here through the playoff before they transfer. So Bama's fine as far as backup quarterbacks. Let's go to Talladega and talk to Tommy. Tommy, welcome into the program.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Very well, sir.
You're looking good in your shirts.
Well, thank you. Go when you're in town, go by the locker room.
Yeah, I'll have to.
All right.
With Lane leaving, is any of our offensive top recruits maybe looking at other schools now?
Not a bit, Tommy. I think they're committed to Alabama. And I think Lane will even tell them, hey, go ahead and go to Alabama. Again, nothing against Florida Atlantic. But no one that's committed to Alabama is going to want to go to Florida Atlantic, so you don't have to worry about that. And as far as other schools, I think Lane will tell them, you stay committed to Alabama, and I think most of them will.
Yeah, and the key recruits certainly are solidified, Gary. I don't think there's any question about that. Or you won't have any issues with Lane Kiffin leaving in terms of it affecting those guys. Because, to be honest with you, Kiffin did an outstanding job as the offensive coordinator. He did not recruit that much.
Hey. This is a rarity. We've got phone lines open at 205-348-WVUA. That's 205-348-9882. So if you always complain about not being able to get through on a Tuesday night, now is your opportunity. Call in. We'll be back with more phone calls, emails, and tweets. Plus, the Alabama men's basketball team loses another close game to a high-quality opponent. We'll have that for you as well. Tider Insider TV rolls on from Tuscaloosa on a Tuesday night. You stay tuned for more right after this. Alabama had a late lead and then was tied with Oregon at 56-56 with 3 minutes to go on the road in Eugene. But just like in the other three losses, Alabama let it slip away. The Ducks, a preseason pick to go to the Final Four by many, outscored the Tide 9-0 down the stretch to win 65-56. Bama falls to 4-4. The Tide back in action Thursday night at home against USC Upstate, then Sunday in Birmingham against Clemson. Let's go right back to the phone line. Sammy is with us from Walker County. Hey, Sammy, how are you?
Thanks, Gary. You and Rodney, great job as always. My question is, he started 15 games last year and half the games this year. Shank Taylor.
Right.
I know he had a concussion, but he's went off the chart.
Yeah,
I
Sammy.
can't hear anything about it.
Yeah, we got that for you. Alphonse Shane Taylor, as you said, a 15 game starter a year ago. Started out as the right guard this season. He got a concussion, reportedly. And as Coach Saban will tell you, he doesn't make the decision on who plays medically, the doctors do. And my understanding is Alphonse Taylor not cleared to play medically. Bottom line.
That's it. And, when they're not cleared, they're not going to play.
Yeah.
So that's really where it stands.
And it is a loss for that offensive line. Really good player. But I think they've filled in nicely, and that's, again, why they recruit the way they do, so that you have some depth when an injury comes. But Shane Taylor not cleared medically to play is our understanding. Let's stay here in Tuscaloosa and talk to Doug. Doug, welcome into the program. Doug, you're on, buddy.
Hey.
Hey, Doug.
I had a question. I have 4 TVs in my family room, so I got to believe I watch a little more football than the average person on Saturday.
Sounds like it.
And there has been just hundreds of terrible calls by the officiating crews this year in every league, not just the SEC or whatever, but across the board.
Right.
Do you feel like the officials are getting worse because they're using the instant replay as a crutch, or what is the deal with the officiating?
Well, Doug, and Rodney will tell you probably nobody's harder on officials than I am. But, no, I don't think they're getting lazy. I do think that sometimes, particularly in a ball comes out type of instance, they're going to go ahead and let the play go through. And knowing that there is instant replay, knowing that if it is an incomplete pass and not a fumble, it'll be overruled, I don't think that's lazy officiating. I think it's just knowing that you have the backup of instant replay. I think they work hard. Let me say this, because I get on them from time to time too, Doug. It's a tough job, man. I mean, it is a really tough job to be a SEC or a major college football official. So I have some empathy for them. I do think they work extremely hard. If they make mistakes, I don't think it's due to laziness or lack of preparation. I just think sometimes it's a difficult game to call.
And I think you summed it up really well there, Gary. I would agree with that. And I think, obviously I think the replay is great because, when there are calls that are really close, that are really difficult to make, that replay certainly has added a lot of clarification.
Yeah, it has. All right, thanks, Doug, for the phone call. Also in Tuscaloosa is our buddy CB. CB, what's up tonight, man?
Don't know, man. I've been out of circulation. Y'all may already talked about this, but these backup quarterbacks, why don't they get more playing time? I mean, it's going to be hard to keep some.
Yes.
There's some out-of-shape games, 30
All right,
points
CB, let me answer that, because that's one we get a lot. And I know what you're saying, but I also say this. When you're playing a true freshman quarterback, he's still learning, and he's still learning. And there are a lot of times, if the guy was a third-year junior or fourth-year junior or a senior, yeah, I can see what you're saying. But in this case this year, they just haven't wanted to take him out until they had to, because they're trying to get him better and better. I think that's had a lot to do with it. Right?
And they did play Blake Barnett some. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not going to see.
And they played Cooper Bateman some.
They did. They played him some. But, you saw Blake Barnett start or play late in the first half in some of those games, played early in the second half in a few games. So, and then he decided to leave after 4 games. CB pointed that out as well. But, that's just kind of the way it is, CB. I'm just going to be honest with you. You look around college football, if you're not the starting quarterback at a school, and a lot of them are going to leave. That's why you see so many quarterbacks transfer.
Happens everywhere. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for the phone calls. You heard us talking about our shirts earlier. One of our callers referenced the beautiful shirts that we have on tonight and ties from the Locker Room in downtown Tuscaloosa, home of the original Elephant Wear. Still plenty of time to get by for your Christmas shopping, or you can shop online at locker-room.biz. I'm telling you, man, you'll be hooked. One time and you'll be hooked. Also, if you want to catch a replay of our show tonight, you can at 10:30, or you can find it anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. This has been Tider Insider TV. Have a great night, everyone.